So it's already been 6 months since I bought my Steam Deck and it absolutely does not feel like it. This thing still feels new to me for some reason. And now we have an OLED version, which I would love to have, but in today's video, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys my experience with the Steam Deck LCD version after half a year. And I'll tell you guys, after owning and experiencing multiple handheld gaming PCs, there's nothing that comes close to the experience that the Steam Deck offers. It's literally in a league of its own. The Steam Deck hands down has to be the most comfortable and ergonomic feeling handheld that I've ever used. It even beats out the Legion Go, which I also think is a comfortable device. But Valve really took comfort seriously when making this thing, as they should, since it's going to be in your hands majority of the time. I love the aggressive curves on the handles that allow you to get a good grip, and the angled edges really make this thing fit in my hands like a glove. The screen on the Steam Deck LCD version is definitely a weak point when you compare it to other recent handhelds such as the OLED version, ROG Ally, and Legion Go. It's a 7-inch display and it only covers about 67 to 70% of the sRGB spectrum, and it's limited to only 60 Hz. But honestly, if you just look at the spec sheet, you might think it's really bad, but in my everyday use, I don't really think it's that bad. And this is coming from someone who owns an ROG Ally and Legion Go. I'm still immersed when playing, and I really don't find myself complaining about the screen. And if you want a better screen, you can just go with the OLED version now. The controls on the Steam Deck are some of the best I've used in a handheld. They don't feel cheap and they're super satisfying to press. But some of the main highlights of the controls to me are the triggers. They're absolutely amazing and they just feel really great to press, and my fingers rest on them perfectly. And the icing on the cake is just like the right amount of travel that they have. So they feel great to use in racing games, first-person shooters, pretty much any game genre. The analog sticks are another favorite of mine because they're full-size sticks, and just like the triggers, makes them very versatile, especially when it comes to first-person shooters where I need that larger stick to make those small micro adjustments. I mean, not that I have good aim or anything, but hey, it helps. The D-pad is also great. It's more of a membrane-like feel when pressed, and it's got some travel to it as well compared to the identical looking one on the Legion Go, which is more flat and tactile when pressed. And of course, I can't talk about controls on the Steam Deck without mentioning the touchpad. These are a great addition and I miss them greatly when I'm using my ROG Ally. And I still miss them even while using the Legion Go, which has a touchpad with haptic feedback. But on the deck, not only do you get two touchpads, they're also really premium feeling, and in my opinion, they have better feeling haptic feedback. You can literally use them as another set of D-pads because the haptic feedback makes them feel like buttons. And of course, they make navigating desktop mode a lot easier. So yeah, the stock buttons and controls on the Steam Deck are pretty much top tier to me. The Legion Go comes second, but I just don't like the small sticks on that handheld. The console-like experience of the Steam Deck is another thing that I really enjoy thanks to SteamOS. When I pick up the Steam Deck, there's almost like a sigh of relief that follows because I know that I'm gonna have a relaxing, almost stress-free experience, and that goes for both the user interface and gaming. SteamOS is really something special because it just works seamlessly. You've got quick access to your games because they're front and center, and when I press the Steam button on the side, it just opens up without issue, and I can have quick access to my library, see which of my friends is on Steam, or open up the main settings. And just the charm of SteamOS is another positive. Like, you can tell when you're just going through the menus and scrolling through by just the animations and the little chimes that play that a lot of effort went into making it, which I highly appreciate, because one area that I've really noticed that handheld PCs really struggle in, and that is software or just like the user experience. But the Steam Deck really excels at this. I also love that the deck tells you the status of which games run great on it with the green check mark, and which games are okay or playable with the yellow exclamation mark, and what games are just straight up incompatible with the deck. And this is honestly one of my favorite things about the Steam Deck, because I can just go shopping for games that have already been tested and verified by Valve, which saves me from having to go out and test to see if a game runs well on the Steam Deck. And this is something I wish other PC handhelds had, because I'm pretty sure someone out there has bought a game for their ROG Ally or Legion Go, and after trying it out was probably not satisfied with the performance. And I'm not saying this doesn't happen on the Steam Deck as well, I'm sure it does, but having a system in place like this just makes it a lot easier to avoid that. So yeah, even if let's say Asus or Lenovo just made a list of games on their websites that showed which games run great on their systems, that would be amazing because it would save the consumer time and money, because they would know if a particular game they're looking to buy runs great or not. The closest thing I've seen Asus do with the games list for the ROG Ally was just some articles detailing some games that ran well. But of course, it's nothing close to what's on the deck. But yeah, this just makes the Steam Deck feel more official because this is a PC at the end of the day, and we all know PCs don't get the best treatment when it comes to game optimization. But with these handhelds, they're kind of like consoles because they all share the same internals, right? All of the ROG Allies share the same APU. Same with the Steam Deck and the Legion Go. So it's like, why not dedicate a team to test out games like what Valve has done with the Steam Deck? This has got to be one of the most underrated features of the Steam Deck. And since we're on the topic of games, there's a lot of games to play on the Steam Deck, from small indie games to huge AAA games. My Steam library mostly consists of AAA games, but I definitely want to start building a nice collection of indie games because I feel like that's where the Steam Deck really shines and performs the best. Another thing that the Steam Deck offers is a really great FPS monitor. It's pretty much like best in class, and it reminds me of MSI Afterburner, which I use on my other handhelds to record performance. It's got multiple levels, and the higher you go, the more information will be shown to you. And I think this is very important because when I try and optimize a game, I need that information, especially the FPS monitor and frame time graph. But you get a lot more than that with the performance overlay on the deck, and this is what the performance overlay looks like on the ROG Ally on the left, and on the right is the Steam Deck. On the Ally, it's not that bad, but the deck just displays more information. But like I said, you can just always download MSI Afterburner on the ROG Ally or Legion Go. So the speakers on the Steam Deck are actually really good. They're loud and clear, and they're better than the speakers on the Legion Go, but they don't get as loud as the ROG Allies. Battery life on the Steam Deck LCD is not great, but I will say I do feel like I get better battery life on the Steam Deck than I do on the ROG Ally or Legion Go. But of course, this will be dependent on the type of game you're playing and the TDP that you have the Steam Deck set at. And I really love how the Steam Deck shows you your projected battery life. I look at it a lot and it's super useful. So after 6 months, my Steam Deck has held up well. This device feels premium. The matte material has held up. The buttons are all working, and I haven't gotten stick drift or anything like that. So yeah, everything works just like how when I first got it, and I have no complaints when it comes to the build quality. The storage options for the Steam Deck have now changed with the release of the OLED version, and at the time when I bought mine, I bought the $399 variant, which was the 64GB version, and whenever you're buying that version, you're pretty much buying it with the intention of adding more storage or upgrading the internal SSD. But now you get a really great bargain with the current $399 version, because now you get a 256GB NVMe SSD, which in the past was like the middle variant of the Steam Deck, and now it's the cheapest, which is great to see. And what's also great is I finally gained the confidence to open up my Steam Deck and upgrade the internal storage to a 512GB SSD. And the way I did it was kind of frugal, because I had just recently upgraded the SSD in my ROG Ally, and the Ally comes with a 512GB SSD. So I took out the SSD in the ROG Ally and put it into my Steam Deck, and let's just say I feel pretty accomplished about that. Now, of course, the Steam Deck isn't all fine and dandy. It has some things that some people would consider cons, such as being limited to the Steam library only, if you're not willing to tinker with the device and download like Windows or something. And it's less powerful than other handhelds such as the ROG Ally and Legion Go. But the experience that the Steam Deck offers is just so exclusive that I've really become fond of this thing, and it's almost like the role model PC handheld that I think other PC handhelds should look up to. I'm not saying to just flat out copy it, but rather take the good stuff from the deck and apply their own thing to it. And we have seen this with Armory Crate and Legion Space, but again, the deck just really takes the operating system and user experience to another level. And not to mention the Steam Deck's insanely affordable price entry of $399. That's just $50 more than the Switch OLED, and it's a lot more affordable than the ROG Ally and Legion Go. And that's why the Steam Deck is in a league of its own.